Welcome to what podcast is this?
Which
this
one?
Is a Christian business podcast. Hey, I did one podcast before, and we did like 50 episodes, and so I got used to saying anyway. So welcome to a Christian business podcast where we have absolutely no idea what we're doing and no business doing a podcast, but no, I think we provide something.
I hope so.
Well, there's a few listeners that would say so. But we do thank you for listening. And it's me, Aaron, with Redeemed Roofing and Exteriors, and Justin, who's not going to make a plug for his company.
Nope.
But that's okay. I'll probably make sure it gets in there every once in a while.
It doesn't need to. That's not
anyway,
the point.
We were just talking about, and Forrest hadn't hit the record button yet. We were just talking about dealing with fire.
Hey, surprise!
Again? Oh, wait. I haven't fired you.
I thought we were going to talk about that today.
Kind of. We were planning on talking about working for friends and doing work for friends, but we were in the middle of a discussion that we thought was being recorded, but Forrest hadn't hit the record button.
Which is fine.
But anyway, continuing that discussion, you get to jump in the middle of it. But you remember the deck that I did for you when I was first starting out? That really big deck? No, the really big one. Yeah.
Oh, in Barrysburg, that 4,000 square footer?
Yeah. That sucked.
Yeah.
But we worked it out. Like, we worked it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of it, too, with that was, like, the level of intensity that the client was I've never experienced a client like that.
See, I didn't think he was too...
You didn't get the...
But I didn't get the brunt of it. I mean, he took me to breakfast, So.
Did he really?
He took it, yeah. Like, the crew was there, and he had a couple other guys there, and he's like, let's go to breakfast. And we went to, like, some little mom and pop joint. But the guy is a really big deal. Like, his name's on, college buildings and stuff and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is a lakeshore home with a 3,800 square foot deck.
Yeah, twice the size of my house.
I was about to say the same thing. But so, yeah, I mean, he was cool for us to deal with, but I didn't, we were the subcontractor on the job. But, I dropped the ball like 6 times or like 26 times or something. but we worked it out. Like, and that's what I texted, because we're having kind of a little bit of tension between us and another contractor right now. And there was a text that came across to me, and it was not a text like brothers would have, but I would expect that we would be brothers just because of the previous conversations we've had. But like you and me, Justin, when that happened, like, you didn't get all, where it was like, hey man, this is a problem. And I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, we're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it. And
so we did. We worked it out so everybody was satisfied, and it got taken care of. And there were some things I wasn't capable of fixing, and so I had to, pony up for getting those taken care of. And so I think, you have this friendship, and that friendship, I mean, that's a perfect example, I guess, to segue into what we were going to talk about today, is, working for friends and having stuff go wrong. That's
because it's going to go wrong.
It is. And so you have to treat each other like
a brother.
And and like we talked about with Spencer, that servanthood, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's 2 real areas that working with friends is important. I did not prepare a devotion today. I totally wasn't like.
I don't either.
It's springtime in West Michigan for construction guys.
And landscaping
and so
season.
We may not be prepared for a few things, but because
we're always prepared to talk.
We're always prepared to talk. Yes. we have. Yeah. See, like, there's so much going on right now, like outside of this, but I think we got this. So there's 2 areas of working with friends. And I think one is like when you're a contractor, and a lot of folks that are listening to this are business owners, and they've done, work for friends or are thinking about doing work for friends, et cetera. And it's like, what do you do? But then there's the other piece of hiring friends. And so there's one school of thought that says, don't ever hire a friend, because if things go wrong, and then you could jeopardize the relationship. There's the other school of thought is, look, if they're your friend, you know what their work ethic is, you know what their value system is, you know how they, and so you're not going to ruin you shouldn't be ruining the relationship if you're both believers, because God, and maybe there's our devotion there, as I was talking with somebody about, God has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Like, there's forgiveness, and you can forgive somebody that is not dependent on them. Mm-mm. If you are wronged by somebody, the Bible commands us to forgive, and that's something we have to do on our own that doesn't require anything from them. However, reconciliation does require that. And it's interesting that God has given us the ministry of reconciliation, but not the command to be reconciled. So it's almost like there's almost like a qualifier on it because it deals with the other person. I can't, but when we are brothers, I would say that is a little heavier, because if we are both commanded to, or if we are both given the ministry of reconciliation, then there's really no excuse to not be reconciled. There just isn't, because we're both given that ministry. And it depends on both of us, and we are both given that call. So having the ministry of reconciliation versus having the command to forgive, I think there's a big difference there. And I think that we could do a better job as a church, big C, globally, to be reconciled with our brothers, because otherwise bitterness grows. Don't let the sun go down in your anger, and all that bitterness grows, and all you do now is it harbors lack of love.
Well,
in your life.
it makes I think like men especially just want to move to the middle of the woods and not talk to anybody ever again, because this world sucks, and we're going to hell in a handbasket. So I'm just going to move to the mountains with my family, and that's all we're going to be. But I think it's like you get sick and tired of that portion of it where you're not being reconciled to people, or I don't know. Like I look at it from the stance of, okay, I know the way that if Christ wants me to live a certain way, how do I phrase this? If Christ wants me to live a certain way, and that I forgive and I don't hold grudges, and they truly are a brother or a sister, like, and I think even like if you look at like in this world, your family structure, like I think about my brothers, my gosh, I mean, we would have knockout, drag out fights. The next day we're totally fine.
Right.
It's that thing that's going to happen, but that I love you, you love me. We're not going to agree all the time, but we're still going to come back around. And I think in a big C, setting, it's the same thing. Maybe even more so, because we understand, and like going back to like what you were saying about hiring friends or not hiring friends. Like I love hiring friends. It scares the crap out of people. They're like, well, what if they do something wrong? Like they're going to. And I'm going to do something wrong.
Right.
Guess what? We're all fallen, and we're all going to screw up, but you can't hold it against anybody to mess up, because they're always going to do it. Sometimes does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts a lot. But did it kill you? No. Right. I mean, I guess if it killed you, it may not be so
and
bad,
it's almost better if something goes wrong, because what, like you look at, okay, and, go back to Genesis, right? God... Isn't it interesting? Somebody once said that God made us in two parts. He made us from the dust, and then he breathed a breath of life. And he did that because if he hadn't done that, and we were just one part, and that part fell into sin, we would be dead right then. It would be, the dust would be over, or the breath would be over. But because he made us in two parts, there could be life and a two-part redemption. So he created us knowing that we were going to reject him.
Thought about that.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, here he's forming out of the dust going, well, why, he could have snapped his fingers. He could have just said, let there be humans.
Just like the animals.
Just like everything else. But he didn't. He personally got involved with his hands and formed out of the dust. And then that wasn't it. It wasn't over. He also added another element of the spirit, right? Pneuma, breath. Some would say, well, why didn't he just make us perfect? Why did he go through the process of allowing us to fall and then redeeming us? But look at the illustration of so much more how much his love is. Because what would it say about the love of God if he had no reason not to love us, right? So he created us with the intent that we would have reason, quotes, not to love him, okay? Or the ability not to love him. And then we get to the point where we experience redemption. The love of God is that much more powerful, because now I can't say, well, he loves me because I'm a good boy. No. He loves me even though I was wretched. So when you hire a friend, it's almost better that they fail, because the restoration of that, because we've been given the ministry of reconciliation, the restoration, the reconciling of that relationship is even better. When you're just friends and you're hanging out playing poker or having a beer or whatever,
just kidding.
Shut up. I was on a roll
Friday.
too, man.
Sorry.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
When you're out having a sarsaparilla with your friend.
I don't do that.
I do like a good root beer, but when you're out having, and like, there's nothing for you to, there's no tension. There's no struggle. There's no, I mean, doesn't mean there can't be, but you're limited. When you are day to day in business, making decisions and maintaining having to be always, quotes, on in the relationship, you will fail, but out of that failure comes growth in love. And so you get the fall in your relationship, and then you get the redemption in your relationship, which causes you to appreciate the relationship and the love of the relationship all the more. Because what is it? The Bible says, if you love those who love you, what credit to you is that? Mm-hmm. And it's not. But if you love those who have lost you $10,000 in a business deal, what credit to you is that? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I think too, like, so one of my best buddies, Brian, his wife is our office manager and designer, and like even within our friends group, because we're really close, and it's that thing of like being a band of brothers, and we do a lot of work for our friends as far as like little building projects and stuff like that. But some of them were like, well, is it going to be weird if she's working for you? I was like, no, it's going to be awesome, because too, with that is a level of accountability that I am also accountable to you. And so you're going to see me at my worst and at my best. Mm-hmm. And in the times of my worst, what do you do with that? And I don't know. I think that's super powerful, because if your friends truly love you, they're going to call you out. Like, I know Ray or Bill or Mike, they have, if I'm messing up or I'm doing something wrong, like Ray having a conversation with me, coming in the office because he loves me and because he cares about the guys that we have.
Right.
He knows that he needs to come to me and say, hey, you're doing too much right now. You need to back off, or you need to find somebody to help you, because you can't do it all on your own. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about, and I mean, when Ray's been here, it'd be 10 years this coming month.
Kidding.
Yeah. But I didn't know Ray from Adam, but now Ray's a friend, you know, I didn't know Bill, didn't know Mike, you know, I knew Becky as a friend first, but I mean, they all become your friends, you know, and a family more or less, but the friends that I've hired, times that it hasn't gone well, I'm still friends with a lot of them. Still friends with you.
Right.
Probably better friends.
Since, again, because we had, we didn't know what it meant to love as a friend until there was reason not to.
Yeah.
And once there was reason not to, and it still came back, I think... But I think it's just like, you know, just like with a spouse, right? Like, oh, you lovey-dovey and flowers and candy and roses and all that kind of stuff. And then you get married and you leave the toilet seat up. Right?
I'm sure there was a bunch that led up to that.
But she still loves you. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously that toilet seat is huge metaphor for like all kinds of crap that we do to our wives and our husbands. So the more that the more that the toilet seat is left up, the more opportunity we have to see a person's really true love show through. Mm-hmm. You know, Bible talks about, you know, who has been forgiven much appreciates it. You know what? I don't know. It's a loose translation. It's terribly, but the concept of, you know, if you're forgiven little, you appreciate it little. If you're forgiven much, you appreciate much. And so, you know, how much deeper is the love for a couple who has experienced infidelity in the marriage and had that restored than somebody who hasn't? Now, does that mean you can't love somebody unless they cheated on you? No, but
it's a different. Yeah, it would be like even like anytime you let your wife down or something like that.
Right.
And knowing that she still loves you. You know, I do a lot of stupid things. Like a lot of times I do things
you do.
with
I had to get one in somewhere, man.
And like I'll have thought in my head that I've had this conversation with her. And if she listens to it, she's gonna be like, yeah, he does this all the time. And then like, I just all of a sudden, like I come home with a skid steer and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, we talked about this. She goes, No, we did
didn't.
not talk about this.
Wait a minute.
What?
I'm not the only one?
No. No.
Like, I thought I was like the king of, we had this conversation. No, we didn't.
Oh, I thought about it so much that I did.
Right. I had the conversation with you in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you weren't there, I can't help that.
You're supposed to know my thoughts, babe.
You looked really good, by the way.
Dig that hole. But
Forrest, don't shake your head. Don't just, no comments from the peanut gal. I'm gonna put a microphone in front of you in a minute here. No cameras.
I don't know. I love the idea of having friends come work because they're your friends and close friends even too for a reason because you're like-minded in things. And I love challenge. I love to know when I'm doing something wrong so I can be better.
Right.
And I want people around me that I don't want yes people around me. Does that make sense? Like I want someone that's going to tell me when I'm wrong.
Forrest and I just were talking about this. We just closed on that property and we were talking with the lender as we were walking out of the office. And I'm like, so we'll do this again in 6 months. Forrest is like, no. I was like, that's why I have Forrest. Forrest's job is to tell me no. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's real good. But you are good at it. You're very good at telling me no. So it works. My wife is glad that he's around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But when it, as it relates to having friends, I think you mentioned something, we're friends because we're like-minded. And I think there's a yes and no. I'm gonna put an asterisk on that.
You're saying our friendship's been fake this whole time? You're just using me?
No, we're friends because we're like-minded, but we're also friends because we're not like-minded.
Yeah.
Because
you're not the same as me.
Because that allows us to challenge each other and bring us back to like you and I have some pretty extreme, like we're like way out there in several different areas, and to have each other pulls us back to the middle. I think I'm more of a doormat and you're more of a bull in a china shop.
That's fair.
And
yeah,
right.
That's fair.
So in our conversations, I pull you. I talk you off the cliff, if you will, or hold you back on your side of the ring so you don't knock somebody out. At the same time, you're like, no, dude, you cannot let that person treat you like that. You cannot let, you can't let somebody roll over you like that. You have to protect your family. You have to protect your assets. You have to protect, all of that. You have to protect your element. If you didn't get that element joke, you need to listen to the Spencer Tell Camp episode. Is cover your element. So you bring each other toward the middle, which is where I think we should be, is more in the middle. But when we have relationships like that, I think it does. It stretches us. It grows us. It causes us to be better husbands. It causes us to be. I think it brings us more into a Christ-centered, I guess, state of being, if you will, to get all transcendental. But and we don't do that if the people are exactly the same.
No, like all of my friends are, I mean. When I say like-minded, like we're like-minded in the things that matter of Christ.
Right.
But like my buddy Mark is a spaz. Like he doesn't ever slow down, way more so than me. And he's super high energy. My buddy Brian is like, he's like the calm.
Chill.
Yes, he's a lot like, he's very diplomatic.
Ray-ish.
Yep. Yes. Okay. And it's, so you have all these different personalities that help build you and help grow you, where it's like you have these, your tribe around you, a band of brothers, if you will.
Right. Well, you're one another's.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, goodness, look at all the one another's in the epistles, right? Of love one another, care for one another, support one another, encourage one another. You can't do that outside. You can't do that outside of community. Mm-hmm. And the people you surround. So there's, we talked last episode with Spencer about, 2 episodes ago with Spencer about, quotes, project people. Again, still cringe at that term, but, people that you are pouring into and serving and caring for. But I think you also have to have people around you that support, your work, your ministry, your kingdom work, and that holds you accountable. But it's hard to be held accountable by somebody who has the exact same tendencies you do.
Yeah. Like that's where, like I've got other friends that are like exactly like me. I would not go into business with them because, geez, oh Pete's, they're like the gasoline to my fire. Like it's like we're gonna do crazy things,
Right?
And it's probably not gonna turn out great. We're gonna have a great time trying it,
Right? Exactly.
But I don't know. I think it's a good way to put it. I guess all in all, and working with friends.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of, when you're in business, I mean, as far as hiring employees, it's, hiring friends as employees, I do think that, there can be a strain on the relationship because as friends, there is an equal in everything. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a dad, I'm a dad. You're a husband, I'm a husband. You're a brother, I'm a brother. You're a homeowner, I'm a homeowner. We're equal. You have an income, I have an income. There's nothing that puts one of us in quotes authority over. There's like a mutual submission. But then when you hire somebody, look, if I want you to, file your TPS reports in a certain way.
Yeah, you have to do that.
You have to file your TPS reports in a certain way. But how does that affect then when we're out having a beer?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, you're going to pay the bill. No, you need to tip the waitress more. No, you need to don't chew with your mouth open because I'm your boss. But again, metaphor, but you know what I mean? Like when we're out.
But there has to be that separation or that line. Like I know like for like Becky and I have to be really careful like when we're hanging out, when everybody's hanging out, to not just talk shop because it's easy to do it and it's like, okay, nope. Let's not talk shop. We're here to hang out and have fun. Let's just talk about life.
But when we're business owners, that's a huge part of life.
It is. And too, like, but even while we're in the office, like all the conversations that I would have like with her husband, well, I've already had those conversations with Becky in the office as we're kind of chatting around lunch or whatever.
I know how your kids are doing. I know where you guys are going. I know what.
So it's like your default to kind of go to that. And I think that's something that I know I have to be careful. But the thing of it too is I love business. You
and I both. Yeah. Every time we talk on the phone, like every once in a great while, like straight up with you, I don't remember all of your kids' names. Oh, because we're always talking about business.
Yeah. It's all right. I remember Josiah.
See?
Yeah.
I only have two. Like I have an excuse for not knowing your kids' names. I only have two. Though, to my credit, I do know all of Grant Swinger's kids' names.
Well, you go to church with them too, don't you? So you see them on a regular basis?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, so because that's what you and I are both passionate about, and that's a huge part of our life. Is huge. And so for somebody like, because Forrest and I, right? So Forrest, we're bringing on Forrest full time. And Forrest and I for the past...
You ready for that?
But awesome. Forrest and I have been friends for 10 years, and we have talked, we talk 4 to 6 days a week.
You do need a mic for like this. Okay. Because I think this is really interesting.
Okay. Forrest has got a mic now.
Okay. Because I think this, I mean, we've been talking about this, just the two of us this whole time. And
here I just hiring
Forrest. Oh, Pete's like the elephant in the room.
So I don't like the idea of you calling Forrest an elephant.
That's not what I meant.
The look on your face when I started saying, you knew exactly where I was going.
No, but I think this is interesting. So you guys have been friends for 10 years.
We've been friends for 10 years. And that relationship, I hope you don't mind me getting a little deep into the weeds there, Forrest. Okay. So
are you going to cry? Are you going to cry?
No, I'm not going to cry.
Good. I'll smack
but 10 years ago, I met Forrest because we were working with kind of a post-high youth group situation. And that's how I met Forrest. And so we began our relationship with almost a spiritual authority, if that makes any sense, kind of a pastoral role,
like a mentor-mentee type
kind
thing?
of, right? And then and then at some point it went too far that way, and like we actually cut ties for what, I don't know,
6 months.
6 months. Like he
Took
didn't
a
want
break.
like he didn't want to talk to me, and I don't blame him because I was a jerk. But it was because of that role, and ultimately we ended up being more friends. Now Forrest is, what are you, 6-7 years younger than me?
I'm 30.
You're
How
30.
old are
Okay,
you?
so 6 years younger than me.
There we go.
So Forrest is 6 years younger than me. And so he was just starting out in life, 18, 19, just getting going. And so I was, 25, 26, and had been a little farther along than he had life-wise. But as time went on, it morphed more into a like straight up friendship. Now there are still some areas where like I've been walking with Jesus longer than he has. So, I mean, there is stuff that like he didn't necessarily grow up in the church. So there's stuff like knowledge wise that I have that he doesn't, but that doesn't necessarily put me in a more authoritative role over him. So 10 years of friendship, and he's working in his line of work, and I'm working in my line of work, and we're talking like every day, and hey, what's going on in your world? Oh yeah, no, that's pretty cool, and I have some thoughts on how that, and then he'd say, well, what are you doing for this? Well, maybe you should look at it this way. So we've just kind of bounced back and forth ideas off each other, and we technically have been working together just as consultants in each other's business.
I think you need to send him an invoice. So.
I do. I do. Don't worry.
He's about to.
And I got access. I could just do it myself. I don't care.
Like that.
Forrest, what is this $17,000
Don't worry about
payment
it.
to
It's
you?
not important.
I took care of it. You hired me to be an office manager. Let me do my job.
That's weird. Yeah.
So now here we go, and that was a big concern as Melissa and I talked was, what does it look like to hire a friend? Because are we going to put ourselves back into the role that we had a 6-month hiatus on friendship because we had a problem with the kind of authority mentor relationship, but now he's coming to work. I mean, I sign the checks, right? It's the business I started, I hire him. That's like, I'm in charge. So are we re-entering that role that we didn't really appreciate?
I think if we have boundaries not set up, and I don't have the ability to tell you no, go kick rocks, then I think, honestly, I think it'd go right back to what it would
Laugh
be.
it up, Curtis. Laugh it up.
But like that's the only way we could make it work is I have that voice to say no.
Well,
or you've given me
that mutual
that authority of saying like, oh, I know that kind of contradicts it, but there is. With my past, it's easy for me to just kind of like listen to people, not even have my own voice.
Kind of like submit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think there's a ton of value in that because he talks.
Yeah.
You listen. And so you're hearing things that he's busy talking about, but you can hear everything that even in the background of what they're actually saying, you can kind of get a better picture. So you can communicate that back to him. That's like what Ray does for me. Because Ray's more of a listener. He's not like, I'll talk all day. Like silence and like when I'm with people scares me. I don't know why. It just does. Like,
Right?
Does bother me. I'm just like, why aren't you talking?
We just talked about this. I was like, you seem to take like big steps being nervous really well. And he just said, I just talk and laugh about it.
My anxiety coping mechanism is jokes. It can be really hurtful in times of loss. Like we had a recent death in the family. That was bad. Like Anyway, but in terms of anxiety, etc., like if my mouth is moving, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Good to go.
But so like I think that works well. But like you said too, you guys have boundaries set up as far as like, okay, I can tell you no on these things because I too have the health of the business and where we're going. Like we have our goals as far as what we're going to try to achieve. And if you do this, you're going to, you're going to hinder it. Right. But I think even too, like we were talking before, like with Kevin, I don't know how your relationship started with Kevin, but now working for you, like you lean on guys where like you and I kind of get in the habit, like, okay, it's another sale. This is big. This can kind of give us access to, I can bring a couple more crews on. Where you got a guy who's watching on the side going, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then you jump into it's like the same thing with your wife. Take it back to if your wife is not on board, don't do it. It's gonna more times than not, it's gonna hurt.
Well, and I was talking to another guy this morning about that. I don't know, there's so many ways we could go with this thing, but I was talking with another guy this morning. Just because a wife or a support person or a confidant is not okay with something or doesn't, sees problems with something, does not necessarily mean it's not what God's calling to you.
I would agree with that.
But therein lies the struggle, because I was talking with him. It's like, okay, what did Abraham's wife Sarah say when God said, leave your people and your community and your way of life and your lifestyle and leave? We don't know. We don't know if she said, yes, my Lord. We know that there were a few people that were like, there are a few places where Sarah did, because Hebrews calls her out when Sarah said, yes, my Lord. Right. But at the same time, there were probably times where, she laughed when they, that's their son's name, laughter, right? Because of that. So at what point, when your wife or your confidant or your Ray or your Brian or my Forrest say no, well, that's a good indicator, but it doesn't mean it's the end all be all. So
it's like that system of checks and balances. Because there are certain decisions you need to make, or that you go with your gut, you feel like you have, but at other times too, and I think it's checking your heart as far as why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's why, like a Forrest or a Ray or whoever is, to have that person go, man, I don't know. Like, and that's where, like, Serena for me, she goes, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to follow you with whatever you're doing. But just know I don't feel comfortable, and here's why.
Right.
And then it's like, okay. Because now it's a bigger decision on the person making the decision. It's like, okay, well, all right, well, I know they're going to follow me with whatever I do. How bad or how good is this going to be? And that's where I think we have to be in tune with where God is leading us in. And I think that's also ties into with, like, our checks and balances.
Well, yeah, the Holy Spirit check to say, okay, why do I want to do this? Well, my wife is saying no, or my Ray is saying, or my Forrest is saying no. My person is saying no. Okay, they see some things, and I understand that, but am I wanting to do this? It, like, pulls me back into a place where I can say, am I wanting to do this because I want it, or because it makes me look good, or because it puts more money in my pocket, or it gives me bigger influence, or whatever? Or am I wanting to do this because the Holy Spirit has laid this on my heart as something that He's calling me to? It doesn't necessarily make us listen to that, but it makes us stop and
think through it,
check, and say, do I hear this, or am I just talking because I'm nervous? And
Well, for me, it's I'm very safe. My whole life has just been, it's like all about being safe, making sure, watching the bottom dollar. And so I think that's why I play a really good role, not in, like, the forefront with, like, as I do have ideas, but you need people like you, and then you, to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to do that. Like a bulldozer, like a bulldog, and just go for the gusto. And I'm just in the background saying, like,
here's the risk.
Yeah.
You need high risk tolerance, and you need low risk tolerance people, because it levels out.
Is Melissa low risk?
Yeah.
Is your wife high risk?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Serena's definitely more of a low risk.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, go back to who are our friends, right? Look at, the people you and I married, Justin, they are opposites in a lot of ways. And that, I think that stimulates love and growth. And I think that's part of the reason Forrest and I are really good friends. I still haven't figured out why you and I are good friends, but, because you're...
Your dad keeps paying me, so, let's keep cashing those.
Keep cashing those checks.
Yep.
Yeah. so many places to go with that.
Oh, but like I think this is, I don't know. This is where we should have started, dude. You guys are right here.
Oops.
Because we are.
Fire me.
Hold on. Go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna do it. It's not my job.
That's true. That's true. So, that has been a big piece of what we talk about. Because, okay, if I'm just hiring Forrest to say no, well, Forrest can say no. He's been saying no for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I don't mean that like he's been, but he has been providing the voice from a low risk tolerance for 10 years. So why? But I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances in that. And the other thing that I think is important for us being friends is Forrest is concerned about the well-being of my business because he's concerned about the well-being of my family.
I have to be.
You have to be.
Well, now I definitely have to be because now.
But like you go work for right. You go work for a big corporation or something, and the size, you talk about like. I think there's a difference between hiring a friend as as like a line worker, and when you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and hiring the first person you hire in your business full time, or your management team, or your board, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's a pretty big difference because for you, like on the landscaping side, right? A whip guy, right? A guy who's running a weed whip. Like there's hiring a friend as a whip guy, and then there's hiring a friend as a office manager for your, $1 million a year landscaping business. And I kind of think there's a difference because the quotes, the whip guy, the line guy is not going to have a whole lot of input in the major decisions of the business. Mm-hmm. And so his concern for the well-being of the business at a macro level, at a level that has a really big impact, I guess is not as impactful.
Well, but that may be because he or she may not have the acumen to kind of understand what goes along with that. So I think it's just a different place. I don't know. Is
there a difference in hiring a friend and I don't know how to define that because I mean every job's important in every business. Mm-hmm. and we
might depend on what they want.
What they want. If they're just looking for a 9 to 5 to get their bills paid, and then they've got something else going. I know a guy that is a missionary, and when he comes back for 6 months, on his furlough or whatever, he gets a job to kind of keep the bills paid, and then he just pours into his family, and then he goes back overseas. Yeah, and so he's fine with that. He's totally content to have that, and so he could work for a friend. As a matter of fact, I think this particular guy does. I think they were friends before he started working for him. But as far as like the upper level business decisions and stuff, I think, for me, I'm not hiring Forrest to pick up shingles off the ground.
Mm-hmm. I'm too expensive for that. I'm sorry.
And your skill set doesn't match that. Your skill set matches, and so there's friendship there. Your concern for the well-being of the business, you have to be, yes, because this business now is a 2-person business. You are half of the equation. And your concern for the well-being of the business, I think, has to be higher than if this was a 40-person business and you were one of 40. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to be in the position where, anybody's replaceable, but everybody's replaceable. Even I'm replaceable. Mm-hmm. There is another roofing company that could fill in the gap that would be left if Redeemed was not around. Mm-hmm. So everybody's replaceable, but I guess what I'm talking about is the person being concerned for the well-being of the business. And your friend is going to be, I think, more concerned for the well-being of the business than someone who did not start out as your friend.
Well, I think that may be just like a heart thing, though. Where are they at, spiritually wise? How do they believe? Do they believe Colossians 3:23? Are they doing, no matter whose business, what they're doing, mm-hmm. are they doing it with all their heart? as working for God and not the man that is at the head of, or woman that's at the head of the business or whatever it might be. But I think with the friends thing, outside of like just wanting the business to be successful because it provides a paycheck, like it's your friend, you want them to be successful.
You do.
You want them to do well, and you want to be if you can be a part of it, if you are, in it, you don't, no one goes, I mean, I guess there are people that do. I don't understand this. Like, well, I'm just going to show up today, put in 8 hours. Okay. See you later.
Right. And I think it's okay to have some people like that. I mean, you can't avoid it.
Oh.
Right? I mean, you can. But how many people have you hired over the years? Look, how many people have you fired over the years because they didn't, right? And how many people have you fired who did have the best interests of the business at heart, but just for some other reason couldn't hack it?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And that's a lot fewer.
Right. And I think those are easier.
Those are,
they're harder in some way, but easier in the other way to let go of.
No, I think those are the hardest to let go. You're your friend,
Right.
where it's like a decision you have to make where it just tears you up inside. Like everything is there's some guys that come in here and just run their mouth and don't follow any of, who we are as Northwoods. And that's an easy decision. It's like, listen, you need to get your life figured out. Just, you're not doing it here because you're a huge liability at this point. Whereas like a friend, like when it comes down to, it's like sometimes it's like a personality thing that kind of gets in the way. Other times it's like for the position that you're in, you don't have the skill set, or you can take it only so far. You just can't take it more. Like I know there's a limit to how far I can take Northwoods or Overbuilt. I can only take it so far. And at that point, it's going to be, okay, now I need somebody else to come in and take that from me. And take it to the next step. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's Aiden when he graduates, and he's the one that takes it to that next level. Right. But I think it's just capacities.
Is that one of your kids?
Yes, that's my oldest.
Yes, I know you have an Aiden and you have a Torin, but anyway, that's all I know.
I'm doing better than you.
There's a cheat sheet right there too, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah, dude.
Oh.
But I think some of it too is like it's a lot harder, but at the same time, like it's. How do I want to say this? God's given everybody a skill set as far as what you can do and where you can go. Not everybody was meant to be a plumber. Not everybody was meant to be an electrician or snow plowing manager. So it's that thing of like you have to be content where God has put you. I mean, you want to try to strive and do better and do everything with all your heart, but you're only going to get so far because God's only going to allow you to go so far. Because if you get to that next step, or were to get to that next step, if God blessed you with that, or for whatever reason, like, would it be healthy for you?
Well, and for me, it wasn't in that situation, the snowplow manager thing, right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that came from that is, because we'd become friends, it was the hardest thing in the world, not the hardest thing, but a hard thing for you to do, to say, no, it doesn't work. It's over. But on the other side of that, a huge part of my business was because of the support that you offered in subcontracting work to me, providing counsel, providing wisdom, providing encouragement. Man, I don't know if I can do this. No, you got this. You whatever it was. So yeah, you did. You fired me because it was no good. That was not the spot for me. And it was a detriment to your business at that point. But that didn't mean that I didn't have skills elsewhere. But what ended up happening is you actually supported me in becoming a competitor. Like we both ran construction companies. Now we made that work through subcontracting work and referrals and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you look at it from a 30,000 foot view, you fired me and then helped me become a competitor. And then that morphed and shifted, and then you essentially helped me fire myself from that position because it was not a good spot where I ended up again. I tried again to be the quotes snowplow manager, and it didn't work. But through that, because I was a friend, you didn't give up, you didn't walk away. We still had conversations all the time, and eventually that was an encouragement to move into the role that I have now. and is ridiculously successful. And I couldn't have even come close to, financially where I'm at or whatever, had I still been working for you. Wow. Right. But I think that's because we were friends, and we became friends through you hiring me at that time. Cause we knew of each other when you hired me, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So I think, but I also received the firing, I think, well, because I was concerned about the well-being of your business. When you said it doesn't work, I remember the conversation very well. I said, no, it doesn't. You said, this is not working. And I said, no, it's not. He said, we can't. You said, we can't do this. And I said, we can't. So we shifted a little bit to kind of get me by until I, moved forward in that. And that was, so you supported me even in that, because you fired me and still had me working for you, essentially.
Yep.
And yeah, so when you begin the relationship as a friendship, you begin the relationship grows into a friendship. Now difficulties can be shaped and molded and changed within the boundaries, and seeing, spending enough time with somebody to see what their gifting is, etc. And then you can support them inside or outside of your company.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's like, even too, like Ray and I just kind of finished up all the reviews for everybody. And like, our big thing is like, you may not, our question is like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Like, even if it's not here, what do you want to do? And one of our next questions that we ask was like, how can we help you? How can we support you? How can we come alongside you? Because I don't want to be, even if it's to become a competitor. Like, we have one guy who's a competitor now in lawn care and landscaping. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. That's amazing.
Right.
Like, to see what he's done, like, I don't know. I think it's very childish and worldly to think that someone's going to take work away from you, as far as like, there's so much work.
Right.
And even if there's
even
not
if
so
there
much,
wasn't,
yeah,
like for you and me, like, even if there wasn't, we can still, I think it was DeVos wrote a book, Rich DeVos wrote a book called, I think it was him. If it's not, forgive me, whoever it is that it was, wrote a book called Compassionate Capitalism. And just the concept of, look, you can still have a free market and be kind. You can still have a free market and bless people. And that's what you do, is you are doing compassionate capitalism when you create a competitor.
What's crazy? This is what's crazy. When you do that, you've taken all of everything that you've learned up to that point, and you've just given them a springboard of how many years and lessons of like how to set it up and how to do it. So every time you work with someone and you mentor someone, you already know more than the last time that you did that.
Right.
So being able to help, Jordan out, to give him, and I love it. Like, for me, it's like, I want to be able to do that. Like, I have all this knowledge inside my head, but I want to be able to teach people, like, okay, I want you to start way further ahead than I ever did. And being able to sit down and go through with a guy like, well, I can charge $25 to cut a lawn. Like, no, you can't. There's no way.
You can't. Well, you said exactly that. Here's a circle. You said, I underbid you. The first job I took when I left I underbid you by a ridiculous amount. And I think I talked about this on the podcast.
I know this one.
I think I talked about this because the person was related to Forrest, who I did the job for. And, we had that conversation. And if you listen to, I think it's episode 8, I kind of go into the story, but ultimately, no, you can't charge that much on that job. You congratulations that you got it, but good luck, buddy. So yeah, I think this right here is the piece of like multi-level marketing that appeals to me, is because that's, you succeed when other people succeed. You make money when other people make money.
It's not just that, dude. That's everything in life.
Right.
When you help other people succeed, you're going to succeed more, because to whom, I think it comes to a point where I think Jesus is talking about the parable of, if you're entrusted with a little bit and you can't be faithful in that little, how in the world do you expect to be trusted with a lot? Like, oh, I want this and I want that. Well, you can't even be trusted with what the little bit is in front of you. So by helping in giving, whether it's time, it's money, it's resources, your knowledge base, or whatever it is, if you can keep giving that away, like, and I don't even want to pull everything to a monetary success,
Right.
but like just so much more fulfillment, because that is what we are created for. We're created for community and to serve
And bless people. Right.
Yeah. And that's, the more I can do that, man, gosh, it feels good.
Well, and that naturally creates friendship because a friendship's based on servanthood. And so now you're like, you can't, like, it's hard to not hire friends. You know what I mean? Like, there is
yeah.
the blessing. Yes, the relationship can get tense, but again, you go back to that ministry of reconciliation. You could destroy the relationship if you hire a friend. Yeah, you could, but you shouldn't because God has given you a ministry of reconciliation. So if you destroy that relationship, it's because you did not honor what God gave you the ministry of. It's because you did not reconcile that relationship the way God intended you to. Just because they don't work for you anymore does not mean that you didn't reconcile with them. You and I reconciled just fine. I mean, look, right?
Yeah.
Here we are 5 years later after I was fired. And I caused some financial difficulty for your business. But we're reconciled. So, yeah, friends, hiring friends. So, Forrest, in a couple of years, when I fire you and you start a roofing,
dang.
roofing company, and
This is where my lawsuit starts.
anybody know a good lawyer? But I think Forrest touched on something too in terms of boundaries. Like when you hire a friend, you've got to have things.
To have them.
You almost have to have things spelled out more with a friend.
Yeah.
Because there can a lot more assumptions get made with friends than without.
It comes with baggage. You know my family. You know my kids. I know your family. I know your kids. It's like, there's so much.
Right. So I call you on a Saturday before you started working for me. I call you on a Saturday and want to talk business. I just expect that to stay the same. On Saturday, we talk business when you're working for me. Well, you should get paid for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll just get an invoice in the mail. Be like, Saturday.
Saturday, 7-minute phone
Just like an attorney. Well, that's $70.
Right?
Yeah, every email, every
In half-hour increments, 1 minute to half hour. But so you have to spell that out. Look, if we, and maybe you're okay with it. Maybe you don't need to invoice if we talk business on a Saturday. Maybe you don't feel that's necessary. We have to lay it out though, because we're hanging out having a barbecue and I don't talk business and you kind of want to. Well, now you're like, well, why isn't he talking? Well, because I don't want to have to pay you. Oh, you expected to have to pay me? Well, no, you don't have to pay me for that. Well, if we spell that out ahead of time,
there's not this weird,
like, how is this going to work? But
it's pretty hard to figure that out too. Because
is.
it's like, it's fun for me to talk about business and it's fun for you, but there might be one day where you're like, I don't want to do it.
No, right. Or you don't want to.
No.
And I think that's that thing of open dialogue of hey dude, I don't want to talk about business today.
Right.
Fine.
But you have to say it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll get bitterness and resentment and you'll stop answering phone calls.
It's all about communication.
Communication.
Everything.
And boundaries. And then when you do work as a contractor for friends, right? I go put a roof on a friend's house. Man, I'm not moving until that contract is signed. And I'll probably be a little bit more like, just send me an email that you received.
That's where I run into problems.
It's like no, here's the contract. Because then they say, well, I thought you were going to do this. Well, no. Well, now you've put strain on the relationship because you didn't set up proper boundaries. And you as the business owner, I talk with people about, kind of the expectation of, well, I'm your friend, so I get a discount. Okay, so I provide a service for $5,000 and you want me to give you a $500 discount. Okay, normally I would charge $5,000 for this. If I charge you $4,500, essentially I'm writing you a $500 check just because we're friends. Now, wait a minute. Why shouldn't I get to charge you $5,500 and you write me an extra $500 check because I'm your friend?
Yeah.
And so people I've really kind of found, and maybe this helps folks, but what I have done is I found another contractor in the area who does the same kind of work I do. And I say, hey, I'm bidding a job for a friend. Will you check my numbers? And the last time I did it, he did. And I was within $150. And then it was my choice. So I went to the friend and I said, hey, I just so you know, because obviously my close rate's going to be a lot higher with a friend.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm not taking advantage of his system. So I did call another buddy and gave him the details on your project. And he said where he would be, and he would be $150 less. And the friend said, no, that's fine. You can charge what you charged. Now, I could have said, hey, if he can do it for that, I can probably do it for that too. Unless his business is set up differently. But bottom line is, but when you're talking about a roof, it was like, I was like 12,000 and I was like 12,200 and he was like 12,050.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm not worried about, if it's that big of a deal to you, that's fine. But, that was close enough that, it could be whether, that's a half inch on a tape measure kind of thing.
Yeah.
In roofing. Yeah. So like, I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to give you some, $1,000 discount just because we're
But even
friends.
too, if I have friends that come and do stuff for me, I don't want you to give me a discount because your success is important to me in your family, in, your business, and that is important to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have it done somewhere else, or I'm going to have it done regardless. So it's a matter of, it's going to get done. And I would rather give you the money to do it rather than somebody else.
Right. Even if that's a few more dollars.
Yeah. Now I do have it too. Like you and I have like any remodel, anything like that, you have it. Like for the most part, guaranteed. New construction, you're not as competitive on the new construction stuff as like some of the other guys I have, but that's fine.
We can talk about that.
Yes.
But how many jobs we talk? No. But you hit the nail on the head. But at some point, so what I end up telling people is people will be like, do I get a discount? They're like, no, you get somebody that you can trust that's going to make it right. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you can call another company that you don't know and they can give you a better price. But if something goes wrong, do you trust me to make it right?
Yeah.
And so, then I'm going to give you, your premium price or whatever, what it costs you to do business. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the reason why I charge more than a lot of roofing contractors in the area is because I pay my guys better. And I know that because they call me and say, hey, I hear you pay better. Mm-hmm. And I have another guy who's like, I don't want to work for those other guys. They send me farther and pay me less. And so, okay, but they work harder to make sure that the jobs are done well. They appreciate working for me and I get preference. They treat my business like it's their own because they want to see my business succeed.
Because your success is their success.
Right, exactly. Yep. And the other part is these guys are working their butts off and they, I heard there was another roofing contractor in the area who like took subs out from underneath a guy. This guy had like 15 crews. They direct hired 4 of those crews around from that guy. Mm-hmm. Like, number one, they're paying less, and number 2, they're pulling crap like that. I'm like, no, that I'm not going to operate that way. And to do that, I have to charge a little bit more. So when a friend comes and asks me to do their roof, this is what I have to charge to make sure your job is done well, that I operate with integrity, that my guys operate with integrity. So this is why I have to pay you that. If you don't need any of that stuff, and you need somebody who can get you a better price because they're operating that other way and paying their guys junk and treating their guys like crap, then yeah, absolutely go ahead with them. And call me and I'll come back and fix it, but you're going to pay for it.
Well, I think a lot of that, like, since you're my friend, you're going to get me a discount. That's like a generational, like it was the older crowd that would always say that kind of like they always get a discount. It's every time I've seen it, it's always been like, Come on, you're the friend. Anybody that you get a friend with that works at Lowe's, hey, can I get your employee discount? That's terrible. I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion on it. It's like an older generation type of older than you. That's for sure.
Do you see that? Do you see that, Justin? Do you see older generations reaching for that a little bit more than younger generations?
I don't know. I really don't.
You don't see a lot of it. Mm-mm. Got you.
No,
because you charge what you charge, and that's.
And it's like I don't know. There's like a confidence you have to have in knowing it. Like the whole thing of setting up boundaries. If you don't know, it's just kind of up in the air. So like we charge what we charge because we've broken everything down. We're not trying to screw you. We literally know what we need to make in order to survive and be profitable as a business. You know, and so if I, in my numbers, I can't do that, you know, then I can't do that job, you know, for whatever it is that, you know, Joe, somebody came and gave you a quote for, you know, but it's the same thing in anything in life. Like as long as you're specific about what you want, you know, the boundaries you may have around your marriage with your spouse, with your kids. The kids got to know a boundary of how far. Otherwise, it's a gray area. In a gray area, that's where it starts getting messy. And that's where it's like, ugh. And then when you start bending to certain things, and now it's like you've just given up everything. Now it's, okay, well, you bent this one time. Are you going to do it again? You know, like our conversation when we were just starting about this, you know, this contractor trying to get you guys to do extra work for free, even though he asked you to do it. Like, nope, I'm sorry.
I'm going to set the boundaries, and if you have a problem with that, I can't help you. I reconciled by looking back at the agreement. And if you've got it in writing, then you can say, oh, and I have done this so much, and you know, call me passive aggressive or sarcastic, but somebody will call and say, hey, I thought you were going to do this. And I know I didn't say we were going to do that, and I know
They're just looking to see if you'll do it.
I know it's not in the contract. And so I tell you what, let me, as soon as I stop, I'll pull out the contract and double check. Because if I did say I'm going to do that and it's in the contract, I'm definitely going to do it for you. I got no problem doing that. But sometimes I you know, I have something that's in there that I forget about because we do so many jobs. Let me just check. Now I know full well it's not in there.
Yeah.
And so I'll call them back and say, hey, I was looking and this is what it says. Then there's no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Because they signed the contract. What are they going to say? Whoa, I didn't read it. But you signed it. Yeah. So anyway. So Proverbs 32.
Proverbs 32.
When you hire a friend, get it in writing.
Yeah.
And
you didn't have me sign anything yet.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but I haven't started.
Oh, okay.
Really started.
That's fair.
Yeah. So
I get to call you out. That's my
Okay.
job too.
does that need to be in the contract?
Whatever you want, man.
Employee reserves the right to call the contractor or to call the business owner out for stupid decisions.
I'd say that in every spring meeting when I'm up front. It's like, listen, guys, if I'm going to make a stupid decision with like a shiny vehicle that I want to buy because it looks pretty, and you look at it and go, this is a bad idea, and I still push to try to buy it, I need you to tell me no. I almost did that in Ohio. Almost bought a truck in Ohio.
No kidding.
And they're like, the transmission fluid smells like motor oil. I was like, but it's pretty. It's so pretty. And they're like, no. I was like, fine.
You come get it yourself.
No, what was bad is I was ready to go back down there. Like I had a rental car reserved. I was going to go down there and pick it up and come back. The guys, they're like, we don't think it's a good idea. Well, Serena was in the office that day. She goes, what do you guys think? They're like, we think it's a horrible idea. Like, well, did you tell him? Well, not really. So she calls me up and she goes, none of your guys think this is a good idea. I was like, they didn't say hardly anything to me. She goes, get back here. I was like,
It's pretty good though.
it is. But then
right.
I got back and I told him, I was like, guys, if I'm going to make a stupid decision like this, you have to, but you're the boss. I was like, I don't care. You're working on it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to write the check when something breaks down.
And then you're going to ask for a bonus or a raise, and I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I spent it on that stupid truck.
Yeah, and all the repairs that it required.
Well, you didn't have to do that. Well, you didn't tell me.
I asked for advice.
Right.
But it's that, I don't know. It's that communication piece. So just being open. Open,
Communicate.
but not disrespectful.
Open, but not disrespectful. You're an idiot. Don't buy that stupid
Well,
truck.
some friends talk like that, so.
I'm a little more gentle.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with you on this and this, but the way you did it was not good.
Wow, that's like
Compliments.
deja vu.
Oh, you've heard that before?
I actually, verbatim, actually.
Oh, wait. Did the voice sound the same as it just did?
Yeah, it actually
It's
did.
a little more garbled because it was over the phone, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
3-4 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
It's uncanny how many details I've just nailed on this thing. Well, we do appreciate you listening to a Christian business podcast. And if you have somebody that you'd love to hear their story, or you think other people would be blessed by their story, we'd love to have somebody on.
Or maybe you think they're an expert on something that pertains to being a Christian in business.
Yeah. Somebody that's living out their faith in the context of the business that God's entrusted them to. We would love to hear from them. You can email us at achristianbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. A Christian Business Pod.
shorter.
Well, I was going to go for ACBP, but
It was taken?
I don't remember if it was taken. But that, anyway. So, achristianbusinesspodcast@gmail, or you can leave stuff in the comments section. And so, thanks for listening. Tell a friend.
Peace out.